Bleacher Report's Zach Buckley has characterized the Orlando Magic as one of the top landing spots for Karl Anthony-Towns after this season if he ends up leaving the New York Knicks. Guys, we're going to be talking about that initial report, why exactly it came out, what kind of fit Karl Anthony-Towns would have on the Orlando Magic, and what has been going on over the last 5 games as the Orlando Magic have dropped their last 5 games since all of the injuries have occurred. Guys, thank you so much for clicking on this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel here at Magic Digest. It is the easiest and best way to support the channel here. We're trying to build an Orlando Magic basketball community, and during the trying times for the Orlando Magic, it would be great to have a community built up so we can lean on each other and complain about what's been going on over the last week or week and a half or so. Let's take a look at what exactly is this initial report coming out from about Karl Anthony-Towns. Zach Buckley said in a scorching hot report on Thursday that suggested Karl Anthony-Towns could be traded to the Orlando Magic this season. Buckley called Orlando as one of the best landing spots for Towns. This was kind of a article that was about all of the different possible moves that could be made in the NBA and in the coming offseason whenever we look at what has happened in the association through the first 7 to 10 games of the NBA season. The characteristics that Orlando held were that they were kind of a lopsided team right now, really good on defense, but need that offensive presence. They needed somebody who can score in the front court, and Karl Anthony-Towns kind of fits the bill in that sense. He's on the first year of his $220 million deal, his veteran extension, and with 3 more years left after this year, that is something that the Orlando Magic might actually want to invest in. Now, part of the reasoning that the Knicks might be looking to move him is because there are reporters and insiders around the league that think that he could end up getting moved for a really good player such as Giannis Antetokounmpo. Obviously, Giannis is not on the Orlando Magic, but that is why NBA insiders such as Mark Stein believe that he could end up being on the move and is not exactly going to retire a New York Knick, or might not be in the 5-year plans for that organization. Now, is this something that the Orlando Magic should do? Well, the way that things are looking right now, there's not exactly a ton of really promising players, especially offensively. I didn't want to get too far into what has been going on over the last handful of games, but just wanted to point out the statistics to the first handful of games for Wendell Carter Jr. before he went down with injury. He had 8 points, 9 boards. Wasn't really shooting all that effectively from the three-point range, but had a pretty decent field goal percentage. Goga Bitadze is also the other center for the team. Hasn't really put up too many numbers of note, but he's also there. And then Jonathan Isaac, like the article ends up going into depth, is not going to be an offensive player that the Magic are going to hang their hat on. He's averaging 5 points per game. Right now, the only offensive player of note in the front court that is healthy is Mo Wagner. He's averaging about 18 minutes per game and 11 points per game. The Magic re-signed him in the offseason, but for the most part, there is no offensive front court presence, especially with Paolo Banchero being out and Franz kind of slumping a little bit and averaging 19 points per game, even in Paolo's absence. Now, what exactly are the Orlando Magic going to have to give up in a sense for this? I don't really want to get into too much today because it is so far down the line. The Orlando Magic would definitely have to give up somebody that is getting close to that big three. So we're talking not Suggs, Wagner, and Banchero, but maybe Mo Wagner, Wendell Carter Jr., De Silva, potentially Anthony Black, Jonathan Isaac, Cole Anthony, Caleb Houston, Jet Howard. We're talking about guys like that who could potentially be very good for the team down the road, but have that younger side to them and have a cap that is not too tough, but also some of those guys got paid a little bit of money, so they might be able to even it out. I don't think that you would want to do a deal for Towns if you had to give up Suggs, Wagner, and Banchero. I think you would rather just stay put. but that is something that I think the Orlando Magic are going to have to look into when the time comes. I don't really buy too much that Karl Anthony-Towns would fix a ton of our issues, or that you would even want to do a deal where he is maybe the second or third option for this Orlando Magic team. I think you would probably want to stay put, especially with his cap hit. But I definitely think he's a very talented player and would end up fitting on a lot of rosters. And if the Knicks decide to send him to an Eastern Conference team, the Orlando Magic definitely would put their hat in the ring, I think, to a certain extent, and try to see exactly what they could get. But I do think it is slightly unrealistic. But the only way that the Magic would do the deal is if they didn't have to give up either Suggs, Banchero, or Wagner. I don't think that they would give up any of those guys in any deal for Karl Anthony-Towns. Okay, let's talk what has been going on over the last 5 games. Obviously, the Orlando Magic are 0-5 since all of the injury news has hit, and they haven't really been able to keep their head above water. I mentioned Franz was slightly slumping, slightly struggling, hasn't really picked up the scoring that everybody kind of was hoping to see from him, even to a certain extent, what they kind of wanted to see with him, even out there with Paolo Banchero. You haven't really seen much of it. The offense has been dormant, especially the Mavericks and Thunder game with 85 and 86 points. But against the Pacers, they had 111 points, and we saw Franz have 28 points, and that was something that was very positive. Goga was back, and he ended up with 12 rebounds. Those two things were very good to see, but De Silva still kind of trying to find his way. He had 5 points against the Pacers. That's not going to cut it. Caldwell Pope played a lot better with 13 points in that game, 5 of 10 shooting. Suggs, pretty decent, 15, 6, and 5. Isaac off the bench was very efficient. Mo Wagner off the bench was also pretty efficient. Anthony Black had 12 points, but there are some things that you don't really like to see. That is going to be the DNP from Cole Anthony. It is kind of almost feeling like it's official that he is getting passed up for some of the younger guys, but in a sense where we're not able to find a ton of reliable offense, to have a veteran like Cole Anthony not be a part of this rotation is very scary. And Jet Howard isn't really exactly getting a ton of minutes either. He played 3 minutes just later on in the game and wasn't really a factor whatsoever. Gary Harris ended up getting those minutes that Cole Anthony did not receive. He had 5 points. Gary Harris is a very hit or miss kind of player whenever he's out there. Some games it feels like, oh, it makes sense why he's in the rotation. Others, you definitely would like to see the rest of those minutes go to either Anthony Black or even Cole Anthony to give him a shot. Now, I know everybody felt that Cole Anthony was kind of using up the last bit of good fortune that he had with the coaching staff. Well, I definitely think that the Orlando Magic don't have the luxury to not try certain things, and they certainly have to give every player a chance out there on the court to see exactly what they got. So after this 3-1 start, they are now 3-6, 10th in the Eastern Conference. It is going to be a uphill battle for this team. Consistent updates on some of the guys that are out is very necessary, but they're going to have to weather the storm regardless of who goes in and out of the lineup for the role players, as long as Paolo Banchero is out for the foreseeable future. This team is definitely going to have to pick up the pieces, and I don't really think there's going to be a trade, especially in season, that is going to save/help this team going forward. Big thing is opening quarters for the Orlando Magic. They lost 26-38 against the Indiana Pacers in the opening quarter. They are going to have to fix that against the New Orleans Pelicans on Friday. That is going to have to be something that changes in the coming games. Now, before I get out of here, definitely wanted to leave everybody with something. In the last video, had a lot of people saying that, man, this team looks really bad. They look like a YMCA team. Tank for Cooper. Everything of the sorts people were saying in the comments on the last video. I'm not really all too against the sentiment that everybody's saying, because it does feel like this team is in full panic mode, but definitely going to learn a lot more about the squad when they play the Wizards and the Hornets. If they can differentiate themselves from those organizations, those basketball teams, I think then we're going to know how far the Orlando Magic can go. If this losing streak continues and we see this team end up being 3-9 over those next 3 games, and they don't have a win in November, about halfway through November, that is going to be where we're going to see some awful, awful headlines if they aren't already terrible. And obviously, the NBA Cup, the group play, begins in that Hornets game. So by that point, we will be able to reassess also what the Orlando Magic are playing for. After that, they have the Pacers, Sixers, Suns, Clippers, Lakers, Pistons, Hornets, Bulls, Nets. That ends out the rest of November. But guys, let me know what you think about the whole panic and the situation that is going on with the Orlando Magic. Pose the same question I did last time. Who do you think is going to have to take over and step up for the Orlando Magic outside of those top two guys, Franz and Jalen Suggs? Definitely interesting. Going to have to pick up the pieces, pick up the slack. But that's all the time I have for you guys today. Next time, I will hopefully see you guys with some good news and some positive Orlando Magic basketball content. But until then, see you next time.